My daughter opened her birthday gift from my parents and froze. She whispered, "Mommy, what is this?" I took one look and felt my hands tremble. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply walked away. But that was the moment I decided they would never get another dollar or another second from me. My name is Olivia Harris. I'm 34, a financial advisor, a wife, and a mom to an 8-year-old girl named Maya. People describe me as the responsible one, the strong one. But for most of my life, I was also the invisible one, the daughter who stayed, the one who sacrificed, until one pink dress ripped every illusion apart. I thought I was helping my parents survive. Turns out, I was helping them protect the very person who destroyed us. If you've ever been the one holding the family together while others pulled it apart, this story is for you. Please like this video, subscribe, and share your own story in the comments, because what happened next will stay with you. Let me take you back to the beginning. It started with a package on a Thursday morning and ended with a decision that changed everything. The package arrived on a Thursday. It was late morning, and I was home with Maya, finishing breakfast before the school run. Half-eaten cereal bowls, crayon drawings still wet, a half-colored unicorn on the table. That beautiful, chaotic morning mess every parent knows. The doorbell rang, and when I opened the door, I found a small brown box sitting on the porch. One corner was dented. My mom's handwriting was scrawled across the label. Her neat, slanted script, the kind she used for holiday cards, and gilt-laced notes taped to birthday presents. To Maya, it said, in that careful cursive that always tried too hard to seem warm. I didn't think much of it. Her birthday had been 2 days earlier. I assumed it was a belated gift. I carried the box inside and set it on the table next to the juice-stained napkins and a half-peeled banana. Maya saw it instantly. Her eyes lit up the way only an 8-year-old's can when they see their name in print. She squealed and clapped, like she'd just won the lottery. That's who Maya is, the kind of kid who gets excited about mail. You could wrap a paperclip in pink tissue and she'd thank you like you just bought her Disneyland. She was wearing mismatched socks and still had toothpaste on her chin. I wiped it off and told her, "Go ahead, open it." Inside was a dress, wrapped in white tissue paper, folded carefully like it had just come from a boutique. Maya peeled the paper back slowly, her eyes wide. "It's a dress," she gasped, lifting it out of the box with both hands. It was soft pink, cotton, tiny embroidered stars scattered near the hem, a delicate rounded collar, the kind of dress you'd wear to a children's theater recital or a storybook-themed party. It was not my style. It wasn't Maya's either, but she held it like it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. My husband, Daniel, looked over from his laptop. "Wow, fancy?" he said with a small chuckle. "She'll outgrow it in a month." "Probably," I said. Maya held the hem and gave it a twirl. "I love it," she whispered. And then she stopped. No spinning, no smiling, just stillness. She stared at the front of the dress like it had spoken to her. Her eyebrows pulled in. "Mommy, what is this?" She turned the dress so I could see. And that was the moment. That exact second, everything inside me began to crack loose. There, above the chest, stitched in tiny cursive white thread, was one name, Little Emily. I felt my throat go dry. My hands began to shake before my brain fully processed what I was looking at. Daniel stood up and squinted at the embroidery. "That's weird," he said. "Maybe they personalized it and got the name wrong." Maya looked up at me again. "Did they think I was someone else?" "Who's Emily?" I didn't answer her out loud, but in my mind, I whispered it. We don't talk about Emily in this house. Not because it's forbidden, but because we know better. I don't mind, Maya said gently. I can still wear it, even if it's not my name. No. My voice was quiet. Firm. Final. You're not wearing it, but it's okay. You're not putting it on. I took the dress from her, carefully but without hesitation, and I walked out of the room. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam a door. I didn't explain. I just went into the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared down at the fabric in my hands. It wasn't the exact same dress, but it could have been. Same pink, same color, same scattered stars. They hadn't saved the original. They had one made. Custom. Deliberate. And then they stitched that name onto it. Emily. As if that was kindness. As if recreating that memory would somehow bring healing. But they didn't do it for Maya. That much was clear. They did it for themselves. I sat with the dress for a long time. My hands trembled. My breath was shallow. You know when your chest feels too small for the air you're trying to breathe? That's what it felt like. Outside the door, silence. Maya didn't follow me. She's learned to give me space. And that breaks my heart more than anything. She's 8. She shouldn't know what it means when her mom leaves a room holding her breath. But she does. And here's the part where I should explain why this matters. Why it wrecked me. Why I sat with a brand new pink dress, like it was a bomb with a ticking clock. But I won't. Not yet. Because you'll think I'm overreacting. That it's just a name. Just embroidery. Just a dress. But you'd be wrong. That name was the line. After this, nothing would be the same between me and my parents. Because Emily isn't just a name from the past. She's the reason I've been carrying this weight for years. And until now, I thought they understood that. I thought they finally saw what she had done. I thought we were healing. I was wrong. This wasn't a mistake. This was a message. I wish I could say this was the first time my parents erased me like that. But it wasn't. And the next few memories that came flooding back, they were even worse. Looking back, the signs were always there. That pink dress wasn't just a trigger. It was a copy of something I'd seen before. Not just in color or stitching, but in everything it represented. It took me right back to my 6th birthday. We had guests, neighbors, extended family, people who barely knew me. But they came anyway. Probably out of obligation or guilt. My mom had this way of making no sound like a betrayal. I remember that day like a snapshot frozen in amber. I was in a corner of the living room, holding a juice box, waiting, hoping someone would notice me. Say happy birthday. Smile. Something. Instead, all eyes were on Emily. She was 8, 2 years older. Taller, louder, shinier. That day, she came down the stairs in a pink dress. Not the same one Maya received, but close enough. Same soft fabric, same collar, same embroidered stars near the hem. She twirled. Everyone clapped. Someone even took a photo, like it was her special day. I still remember the flash. My mom stood nearby, beaming like she'd just won an award. And me. I finally walked up to her, tugged lightly at her sleeve, and whispered, "It's my birthday." She didn't even look at me when she said, "Don't make this about you." That was the moment. Not the first time Emily stole the spotlight, but the first time I realized I would never catch up. The gap between us was wider than age. It was survival. Emily was the sun, and the rest of us just orbited her. Even back then, I tried to become her. I mimicked her handwriting, practiced her laugh, copied the way she tilted her head when she asked for something. I was convinced there had to be a formula. If I could just crack the code. Maybe then, just maybe, I'd be seen too. But I never figured it out. Because it had nothing to do with what I did. Emily didn't have to try. She just absorbed attention. Charm leaked out of her like perfume. Teachers adored her. Strangers bent rules for her. Even when she failed at something, people framed it as ambition. And so, as we got older, the pattern just evolved. She bounced from one job to the next, city to city, never really staying anywhere long enough to plant roots. But somehow, she always landed on her feet in someone else's couch. She dated actors, musicians, trust fund kids. 1 month, she was launching a candle brand. The next, a yoga line. None of it ever stuck. Until one day, she made an announcement. She was starting her own fashion brand. Not just a store, a brand. She called it Emily Label. She even had a website. Mock-ups, logos, phrases like sustainably made, intentionally crafted. She told us boutiques were already lining up, that all she needed was help with upfront costs. She promised triple returns within the year. It's not a gift, she said. It's an investment. And we believed her. Because that's what we always did. My parents gave her what they could. I gave more than I should have. Thousands? Maxed out one of my credit cards. Took a small loan under my name. Because when Emily shines, it feels like the whole family glows. But then the silence started. First, it was just a delay. Then she stopped answering texts. Voicemails sat unread. Emails bounced. The updates she used to send screenshots. Client orders. Invoices suddenly stopped coming. We thought something had happened. An accident? A breakdown? My mom cried at the kitchen table. My dad stared out the window and said, "We just want her to be okay." Then came the letter. Typed. Cold. Barely one paragraph. She said she was moving abroad. Needed time. Space? Please respect my decision. She wrote. That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just gone. At first, I blamed myself. I wondered if I hadn't supported her hard enough. Had I asked too many questions? Been too skeptical? I replayed every conversation, looking for where I might have gone wrong. But the truth unraveled slowly. Bit by bit, the pieces came together. There was no business. No buyers. No orders. Just a website, and behind it, absolutely nothing. She'd used our money to travel, stay in hotels, buy expensive clothes, take weekend trips to Bali and Ibiza, all under the disguise of business research. But it wasn't just the stolen money. That would have been bad enough. She'd used my name to open accounts, taken out credit cards with my social, built up balances just small enough to fly under the radar. Until they didn't. Debt collectors started calling me. I checked my credit score one day and nearly fainted. Loans I never applied for. Accounts I never touched. Late payments. Delinquencies. The police called it a civil matter. The bank said it was my word against hers. The debt sat there like quicksand, dragging me under every month. Meanwhile, my parents just shut down. They were heartbroken, but not angry. They kept saying, she didn't mean it. She was struggling. She didn't know how to ask for help. They mourned her like she had died. But she wasn't gone. She was just living somewhere new, waiting to reinvent herself again. And still they asked me for help. When the bills piled up, when the mortgage fell behind, when their heater broke in winter, I stepped in, month after month, because I thought we were all on the same page now. We'd all been hurt. We'd all lost something. I thought we had finally learned. But then came the comments, the subtle ones. Maya looks just like Emily did at that age. She has that same spark. Maybe she'll dance first, too. And then the gifts. The books. The outfits. The gentle nudges. Quietly steering Maya toward the same image. The same path. Until the dress arrived. That's when it clicked. They weren't over Emily. They were trying to replace her. And they were willing to use my daughter to do it. I knew what I had to do. It wasn't just about protecting Maya anymore. It was about taking my power back. So I made a plan. And for once in my life, I chose me. The moment I saw Maya holding that dress, I felt something shift in me. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even sadness. It was clarity. Like a light had been flipped on in a room I'd spent years wandering in the dark. And suddenly, I could see everything. The walls, the exits, the mess I'd been calling home. That dress was never meant for Maya. It was a replica, a memory stitched into new fabric. A second chance at a fantasy they refused to let go of. They didn't send it to make Maya happy. They sent it to keep Emily alive. That's when I realized I wasn't part of a family. I was part of a cover-up. All these years, I thought we were healing. I thought we were grieving the same loss. I thought I was helping them survive a betrayal. But in reality, I was just funding their denial. And Maya, she was becoming the next vessel for it. So that night, I made a decision. No big scene. No dramatic confrontation. Just me, sitting on the edge of my bed. The dress beside me like a sleeping ghost. And my phone in my hand. I opened my banking app. Then another. Then another. Each one blinking open like polite assistants, waiting for instructions. And one by one, I shut the taps off. I canceled the grocery card reloads I'd set up for them. Paused the mortgage autopay I'd been covering since last spring. Stopped the monthly utility transfer. Disabled the emergency fund access they'd only use if it ever got really bad. I didn't cry. I didn't hesitate. I just did it. It was mechanical, methodical, soothing. Like deleting old voicemails. Like vacuuming a room that's been cluttered for years. When I finished, I sat there for a long while. The silence was heavy, but not oppressive. For once, it didn't feel like I was waiting for someone else to fix it. I picked up the dress, folded it slowly, carefully, and placed it into a plain brown paper bag. Then, I took out a pen and wrote a note. 3 sentences, each one heavier than the last. You lost one daughter. I'm the one who stayed. You just never noticed. I slipped the note inside the bag with the dress and sealed it shut. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. Daniel was already in the kitchen, making coffee. I was still in my pajamas, holding the bag. He glanced at me, then the bag. You sure? He asked gently. I nodded. Yeah, I won't be long. Can you get Maya ready? Of course, he said. No questions, just quiet support. It's one of the things I love about him most. He knows when something is sacred. I got in the car and started driving. Their house hadn't changed. Same cracked flower pot by the door. Same dent in the garage from when Dad backed out too fast one New Year's Eve. Same overgrown rosemary bush they kept forgetting to trim. Everything looked exactly the same, which somehow made it worse. I didn't ring the doorbell. I didn't knock. I just walked up to the porch, set the bag down, and walked away. No performance. No closure speech. Just done? They started calling within the hour. 1 missed call. Then 3. Then 6. By lunchtime, my voicemail inbox was full. I listened to exactly one, my mother's voice, sharp with disbelief. What is this? You're returning a birthday gift. What kind of message is that? And in the background, my father's grumble. And what does she mean she's not going to pay anymore? What the hell is she talking about? I blocked the number. Then I opened my calendar and deleted every single reminder. Water bill. Grocery help. Rent buffer. Emergency refill. Gone. Then I created a new document. I titled it, Things That Are Mine. The list was short, but it was clean, and it belonged to me. For the first time in years, I felt the edge of something like peace. Not joy, not freedom, but space. A sliver of silence that didn't carry expectation. I told myself it was over, that I had done the hard part, that they'd be angry, but eventually they'd move on. But I was wrong, because if there's one thing people like my parents hate more than disappointment, it's being denied control. They thought silence would shame me. They thought guilt would pull me back in. But what came next wasn't silence at all. It was something far louder, and someone I never expected was about to make her return. At first, I thought it was over. The calls stopped after I blocked them. The silence, surprisingly, lasted longer than I expected. But quiet doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes, it's just the air pulling back before the storm. A few days later, the text messages started not from my parents, but from people I hadn't heard from in years. Cousins, aunts, even old neighbors who used to forget my birthday, but suddenly remembered how to dial a phone. You really cut them off over a dress. They love Maya so much. You're being extreme. Whatever happened to forgiveness? And my favorite, you need to talk to someone. This isn't normal. They came in waves. Guilt disguised as concern. Judgment wrapped in emojis. Polite outrage that skipped all the context but demanded resolution. I ignored every single one, until the number I hadn't seen in 5 years appeared on my screen. Unknown caller. It rang 3 times before I picked up. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity. Maybe closure. But the second I heard her voice, I knew. Emily. She didn't say hi. Didn't apologize. She opened with, "So, I heard you cut them off." Just like that. No shame. No surprise. Just information. "You've been talking to them?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "For a while now," she said. Casual, like it was no big deal. She'd been in contact with them the entire time, while I paid their bills, managed their needs, and tried to hold everything together. Emily was still inside the circle I thought I'd been protecting. "They never told you?" she asked. "No," I said. "They let me think they were done with you. They weren't. I know that now." There was a long pause. I heard her breathing on the other end. Calm. "Practiced? You've always been the stable one." "Liv," she said. "You're good at this. Jobs. Family. Holding it down. I'm not like you." "You're right," I said quietly. "You're not." She shifted. I could tell. "They need help," she said. "It's bad. They're behind on everything. You know how they are with money. Then help them." There was another pause. Longer this time. "I can't right now. Things are tight." Of course they were. "You always had the job, the house, the plan," she added. "And you always had the lies," I said back. Still calm. "The charm, the excuses. You're angry." "No," I said. "I'm awake." I expected her to fight, to argue, to twist it like she always did. But she didn't. Instead, she went quiet. Then said, "You're really going to throw away the whole family over some money?" I let that hang in the air. "You think this is about money?" I asked. "You wrecked my credit, stole my identity, took everything I gave you and vanished." "I didn't mean to. You knew exactly what you were doing." "You always do." And just like that, she hung up. Not out of guilt, But because she couldn't control the conversation, that's what this had always been about. Control. And now that I wasn't playing my part, she had no use for the scene. The next morning, there was a knock at the door. I was in the kitchen making coffee. Maya was upstairs brushing her teeth, singing something off-key like she always did. Daniel opened the door. I heard him go quiet. Then he called out, "Liv." I walked over, and there they were, my parents. My mom was holding a cake box in both hands. My dad stood behind her like a statue, his jaw tight, eyes tired. "We just want to talk," she said. I didn't move. "Please," she added. "We're not here to argue." I looked at them, really looked. The people who raised me, the people I had sacrificed for. And suddenly, I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel fear. I just felt done. "You've been talking to Emily," I said. They didn't deny it. "For a while now," my mother said. "Since that first year." So all this time, while I worked double shifts, transferred money, made their life livable, Emily was there. They had used my help to support the person who broke me. "I thought you needed me," I said, voice flat. "We did." "No," I corrected. "You needed someone to clean up after her. And you let me believe I was helping you when all along." I was just helping her. My dad finally spoke. "She's in trouble. She's always in trouble." I snapped. "And somehow, that's never her fault. She made mistakes, and I paid for them." My mother's voice cracked. "She's your sister, and I'm your daughter." Silence. I stood there, unmoving. Daniel stepped behind me, calm, protective, his presence like armor. "I think it's time for you to go," he said, quietly but firmly. They didn't argue. They just looked at me with this disappointed sadness, like I'd broken something. But the truth was, I'd finally stopped letting them break me. After that day, they disappeared. No calls, no texts, not even birthday cards. But silence doesn't mean healing, because what came next was the final consequence. And not just for them. After they left my porch, everything went quiet. No more voicemails, no more texts, no more unexpected knocks. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't hear from my parents for weeks. And for a while, it felt like breathing clean air, like my house finally belonged to me. Sunday mornings became peaceful again. Maya blasted music while brushing her teeth. Daniel fixed the kitchen cabinet that had squeaked for 2 years. I slept, deeply, fully. But healing doesn't always arrive in silence. Sometimes it hides behind it. Because peace, when you're not used to it, can feel like waiting for punishment. At first, I kept checking my phone, out of habit, out of fear, out of guilt I hadn't earned. Then the messages started again, but not from them. This time, it was the second wave. Cousins, aunts, people who had been absent for years suddenly found the energy to form opinions. "You need to make it right. They're getting older. Time is precious. You'll regret this when they're gone." And the one that really stung. "Family is everything." As if I hadn't spent years trying to prove exactly that. I ignored every message. Blocked numbers. Silenced threads. Deleted group invites I hadn't asked to join. I was still working on being okay with choosing myself. And for some people, that's the worst betrayal of all. Then came the call I didn't expect. It was a weekday afternoon. Maya was at school. I was folding laundry, half watching some home renovation show I'd never finish. The phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. But something made me check it anyway. There was no message, just silence. A few minutes later, it rang again. Same number. This time, I answered. Hello. No greeting. No hesitation. Just her voice. They told you. Didn't they? Emily. I hadn't heard her voice in 5 years, but it slid right back into my ears like a bad habit. They told me everything. I said. She sighed. I didn't think they would. They said you didn't need to know. They were wrong. Another pause. Look, things didn't go the way I planned. She started. I never meant to hurt anyone. You stole from us, I said calmly. From me. I was under pressure. I thought I could fix it before it got out of hand. You opened accounts in my name. You wrecked my credit. I had to work 2 jobs for 3 years to undo what you did. I didn't know it got that bad. That's the thing, Emily. You never stick around long enough to see the damage. You just light the fire and leave. The line went quiet. Then she said it. They need you. There it was again. The guilt lever. Pulled like a reflex. They're struggling, she added. They won't say it, but they're scared. They're scared because of what you did. And they want me to clean it up again. You're stronger than me, she said. You've always been stronger. That wasn't a compliment. It was a weapon. Because strength, in our family, meant duty. It meant sacrifice. It meant being the net for everyone else's fall. And I was done being the net. They chose you, I said, over and over again, even when you burned everything down. That's not fair. No. What's not fair is that I stayed. I paid. I worked. I carried. And none of it was enough. 'Cause I was never Emily. Silence again. Then, in a softer voice, you're really cutting them off. I already did. And me. I took a breath. You were never really here to cut off. She didn't respond. Then the line went dead. She hung up. Just like before. The second she realized I couldn't be swayed. Weeks passed. Then I heard from a second cousin. Through someone else's Facebook comment. Emily was back. Living with my parents again. Apparently. Things abroad didn't work out. The money dried up. The stability faded. And just like always, she landed exactly where she knew she could. With them. They were selling the house now. Too much upkeep. Too many bills. Classic ending to a pattern that had played out one too many times. I didn't ask where they were going. I didn't want to know. Maya stopped asking about them too. She used to bring them up now and then, tiny questions. Like whether Grandma would come to her next recital, or if Grandpa would still bring her donuts when he visited. But slowly, those questions faded. The curiosity dried up. Kids are smarter than we think. They watch who shows up. And who doesn't. Now it's just the 3 of us. Me, Maya, Daniel. We make pancakes on Sundays. Dance in the kitchen. Watch movies that always end too late on school nights. No pink dresses. No quiet comparisons. No emotional landmines hiding in gift wrap. Just us. And sometimes, that's enough. Actually, it's more than enough. It took me 3 decades to choose peace over loyalty. To realize that being the one who stays doesn't mean staying silent. So here's what I learned. And maybe it's something you needed to hear too. I used to think loyalty was sacred. That family was untouchable, unquestionable. Something you defended, no matter what. Even if it cost you peace. Even if it drained you dry. Even if it meant losing yourself entirely. But here's what I've learned. Loyalty without boundaries isn't love. It's survival. And surviving isn't the same as living. I spent over 30 years being the good one. The reliable daughter. The dependable sister. The one who stayed behind and cleaned up messes she didn't make. And for a long time, I thought that was love. That giving even when it hurt, was proof I was worthy. but love that requires silence. That demands your exhaustion as payment. That only shows up when you're useful. That's not love. That's manipulation wearing a nice dress. The day I sent that pink dress back, I thought I was drawing a line. But what I really did was build a door. And then I walked through it. I left behind the need to explain myself, to fix what I didn't break, to be chosen by people who never saw me clearly. And what I found on the other side wasn't loneliness. It wasn't regret. It was freedom. Freedom to parent my daughter without shadows. Freedom to enjoy silence without waiting for guilt. Freedom to finally see myself as more than just the responsible one. I'm still healing. That doesn't stop just because you've made the right decision. But now I can breathe. I can sleep. I can laugh without looking over my shoulder, wondering if someone's about to ask for more. People sometimes ask me if I ever think about reconciling, if I'll call my parents on the next holiday, if I'll forgive Emily if she ever changes, if I'd go back, if they finally said sorry. And the answer is complicated. I don't wish them harm. I don't want revenge. I'm not sitting here plotting their downfall. But I also won't re-enter a fire just because someone promises this time it won't burn. Forgiveness and access aren't the same thing. You can forgive people from a distance. You can wish them healing without handing them another match. Sometimes, loving yourself means letting go of the people who taught you how to disappear. I tell this story because I know I'm not alone. There's someone watching this right now who has always been the helper, the fixer, the one everyone relies on until you finally say no. And when you do, they call you ungrateful, dramatic, cold, selfish. But what they really mean is, you stopped being convenient. And that's when you find out what kind of love they were really offering. So, if you're standing at the edge of that choice, wondering if you're crazy for walking away from people who say they love you, you're not crazy. You're waking up. And if you've already walked through that door like I did, I hope you know how brave that is. How rare. How powerful. As for Maya, she's thriving. She paints now, sings loudly, picks out her own outfits. She doesn't look over her shoulder for approval. She doesn't shrink herself to keep the peace. She dances in her own space, full of joy, full of light. She is everything I was afraid to be. And she wears whatever she wants, especially on her birthday. If this story made you feel seen, even in a small way, if you've ever been the one who stayed too long, gave too much, or carried what wasn't yours, tell me in the comments. What was your moment? What was your version of the dress? And if you're still in it, still holding your breath, let this be your permission to choose peace, to choose you. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because healing begins the moment you stop whispering your story and start telling it out loud.